When you are playing the Roland GR50 with your guitar, it is important to make sure the strings are in tune with the unit. Otherwise, this may have adverse effects on the way the sound comes out. To tune your strings to the unit, press Tune Play once. Here, on the top line, you'll see Master Tune and what the tuning is presently set at. The bottom line will show you the string, the note it is playing, and whether you are in tune with the unit or not. Like so. If you press parameter A, this will take you to how the sensitivity of the pickup is set to the strings. The top line, 1 to 6, are the strings. The bottom line shows you the sensitivity at which the pickup is set. To set the sensitivity, use the value up and down buttons. Depending upon the pick strength of your playing is how you will set the sensitivity. Use the bank and parameter B buttons to scroll backwards and forwards across the bottom line to each string. Part and string offer the same functions. Pressing parameter A again will take you to another submenu, and this will show you the string you are going to pluck, what the sensitivity is set to, and at what level the sensitivity is playing. Like so. You can set the sensitivity here using the value up and down buttons. If you are not satisfied with the way the pickup picks up the vibrations of the strings when you have set the sensitivity on the settings in the menu, you may need to adjust the pickup height to the strings. You can use parameter A and group to scroll up and down through the submenus of the string settings. When you have finished setting the tuning on your strings to the unit and the sensitivity on each string, press Tune Play once, and this will return you to the performance display screen. The System button accesses three main global menus for the MIDI, including Memory Protect on and off. The part and string buttons allows you to scroll up or down through each global menu. Group and parameter A allows you to scroll through each submenu in that global menu you are currently in. Bank and parameter B offers the same functions as the group and parameter A buttons. The value up and down buttons allows you to alter the parameters within the function you are currently looking at in the submenu. Pressing the group button for the first submenu will take you to System Control Channel. This here is the MIDI channel you are on at the moment and ranges from 1 to 16 and off. This is for the pitch bend, modulation and volume to be controlled by the S1, S2 switches, the FC 100 foot controller and the EV5 foot pedal, and also an external MIDI controller such as a synthesizer. Pressing the group button again will take you to the next submenu, System Exclusive Units Number. This is for when you are using two same type units to pass exclusive messages between, such as parameter editing and patch exchanges. Also for certain software programs for editing the GR50. Pressing group button again will scroll you up to the next submenu, the System Display Mode. At present it is set to number 1 and refers to the performance screen when in play mode. This is recommended when you are using the FC100 foot controller. Here on your right hand side you'll see the information that you are using the internal synthesizer and the sound. This does not refer to the patch chain patches you have programmed into the patch chain. Pressing the group button or parameter A will allow you to scroll between the internal and the card selection if you have a card in the memory card slot. Bank and parameter B will allow you to scroll up or down in groups of 10 through the sounds. Using the value up or down button will allow you to scroll up or down through the sounds individually. Here you will see you can select up to 88 sounds on the internal synthesizer itself. If you press up one more time on the value up button, it will then default to the card at number 1. Though it says you have 88 sounds in the actual sound engine, in reality you only have 64. If you scroll back down to number 81 and then go down past number 81, it will then default to number 78. This will occur all the way down through each bank here. The sound engine has banks of 8. These add up to 64 sounds in reality. If you put your memory card in the memory card slot, you'll actually only have 64 sounds there as well, totaling 128. If you do not have a card in the memory card slot and you scroll up past number 88, card not ready will appear and then will default to the sound here. Selecting display mode 2 for the performance screen, you will now notice on the right hand side you no longer have information to indicate whether you are using the card or the internal patch selection of sounds. If you have the card in the memory card slot, you will see that you now have 128 sounds in which to choose from. As you can see, it will then default back to number 1 if you go past 128. If you do not have a card in the memory card slot and you are on the 64th sound on the internal sound engine and you press value up one more time, this will default back to number 1. If on the other hand you press the bank button, it will default backwards 54 spaces from the last place of 64. Here, you are now on sound 10. If I move down one space and press bank again, you'll see it will then default to place 9 in the sound engine. If I press the group button again, this will take you back to Memory Protect. Pressing the Part button will allow you to scroll up to the next menu. Here you'll see the pitch bend range. This ranges up to 24 semitones and can be altered by the value up and down buttons. Pressing Group will take you up through the submenu to Modulation, which you can switch on and off using the value up and down buttons. Pressing Group again will take you to the volume control, which you can also switch on and off. Pressing Group again will take you back to the pitch bend range. Pressing the Part button again will take you to the next global main menu. Here you can access the parameters for the GK2, the GK3, S1 and S2 switches, and the FC100 foot controller and the EV5 foot pedal. The GK2 S1 switch has been assigned to patch chain down function. Using the value up button, you can change its function to either modulation, cutting the sustain on the sound, or moving the pitch up 1 octave, or you can switch the switch off. These functions also apply to the S2 switch, the FC100 foot controller and the EV5 foot pedal. As an example, we will assign the S1 switch to cut the sustain on the synthesizer sound. Using the bank button will take you to the condition of how the switch operates. At the moment it is unlatched. This means it acts as a momentary switch and only has to be pressed once for the sustain to be cut, like so. Using the value up button, I can change the condition to latched. This means you have to press the button twice for the same function to operate, like so. These switches will also operate when using an external synthesizer MIDI'd up through the GR50. Using the group button, I can now scroll up through the other submenus to S2 switch, the foot controller switches and the FC EV5 pedal if you have it connected to your unit. When you have finished programming, you then can use your page back to come out of the global menus to the play and display mode settings. The patch chain is a group of individual sounds pre-programmed from the internal synthesizer into banks. There are 5 banks within the patch chain and up to 25 patches within each bank. Using the page up and down buttons, you can scroll up through each bank. You can also use the Enter button to scroll up through the patches individually within the bank, but you cannot scroll back down again using this method. If you have programmed your S1 and S2 switches, you can scroll up and down through the banks like this. This also applies to the FC100 foot controller if you have pre-programmed the pedals to do the same functions. If you have a card in the memory card slot and you scroll down one more time using the page back buttons, it will default to the memory card Bank E patch 1. You can then scroll down further through the banks on the card and the patches. When you get to the Bank A on the card and scroll down one more time again, it will default back to the internal synthesizer Bank E patch 1, where you can then scroll back down again to Bank A internally. If you do not have a card in the memory card slot and you scroll down one more time from Bank A, a message will appear, card not ready, and will default back to Bank A patch 1. If you scroll up through the banks to Bank E and you do not have a card in the memory card slot and scroll up one more time, the message card not ready will appear again, and then the performance display screen will default back to Bank A patch 1. Another way to access the internal sounds of the synthesizer is by using the Group and Parameter A buttons if you have a card in the memory card slot. Depending upon which mode you have selected for the performance screen will show you the information as to which sounds are located where. Here in mode 1 you can see it is internal and patch 1. If you press the group button, this will then transfer to the card with the same information. If you have set the performance screen to mode 2 in the global menu, this information here, providing you have the card in the card slot, will show 1 to 128 in the internal sounds as you select them. If you do not have a card in the memory card slot, you will only get 64 sounds from the internal memory. This does not reflect on what the patch bank numbers are and the patches in them banks. Using the Bank and Parameter B buttons will allow you to scroll up through the sounds in groups. Using the Value Up and Down buttons will allow you to scroll up and down through each sound individually. If you do not have a card in the memory card slot and you use the Group and Parameter A buttons, the message card not ready will appear. To return to the patch bank mode, press page up and page down. To insert a patch into a patch bank, use the page up and down buttons to select the bank you wish to insert the patch into. You can use the Enter button to scroll up through the patches to find the place to insert the patch, or your S1 and S2 switches on your guitar if they are programmed to do so. When you have selected the place to insert the patch, press Patch Chain and Page Up together. On the screen you will see you are going to insert the patch internally to Bank B location 3. On the right hand side, this will show you the patch number when you have selected the patch. If you have a card in the memory card slot, you can use the Group and Parameter A buttons to scroll between the internal synthesizer sounds and the card sounds to select the new sound from to insert into the patch bank. If you press Group button again, on the top line here you'll see a number of lines next to the number of the bank. This will enable you to delete all the patches from bank patch number 3 to the end of the chain. You can then rebuild the whole patch chain again from that number if you wish to do so at a later time. If you scroll up again, this will take you back to the internal selection of the synthesizer sounds. Though the display shows groups of 10 when you scroll up or down using the bank and parameter B buttons, if you use the value up and down buttons, you can scroll up or down through the sounds individually. And you'll notice that for every 8th sound afterwards, it will jump 3 spaces to the next available sound. There are actually only 64 sounds in the internal synthesizer and 64 sounds on the memory card to choose from. When you are ready, press Write Copy once. The bottom line will show you are going to insert the sound into the internal patch bank and the bank location. If you wish to change the bank, you can use the value up and down buttons to scroll through the banks. When you are ready, press Enter. This will ask you if you are sure. If you decide not to insert the sound into the patch bank, you can press Page Back to the previous page. This will take you back to the sound selection. When you are ready, press Write Copy once. This will ask you if you wish to turn off the Memory Protect. This will then insert the sound at the same time. Equally, if you change your mind, you can press Page Back until it returns to the performance display screen. When you are ready, press Enter. This has now completed the procedure. You can see the patch chain is still red. This means you are still in edit mode. Press Page Back twice until the red light turns green and the Tune Play light turns green. You are now in performance display screen. If you page up to the next bank and press Enter, you will see the new sound has been entered into the location you selected. The patch, which was originally inserted in this location, has now been moved up 1 space to bank location 4. Here completes the procedure. Sometimes when you are going to insert a patch into a patch bank, the patch bank may be full, and the message when you try to insert the new patch into the patch bank will come up Chain Memory Full. You will need to delete a patch, so you may insert a new patch into the bank. The 25th patch cannot be deleted if you decide to delete that patch, but any patch below that can be deleted. Once you have deleted the patch, you can then insert a new patch into the patch bank. To delete a patch, press Patch Chain and Page Back once. On the screen you'll see the patch above has now replaced the patch you are going to delete. This is not the patch that you are going to delete, but the patch you selected before you pressed the patch chain and page back buttons. When you are ready, press right copy once. The bottom line will show you that you are going to delete the patch from the internal selection and the bank. Press enter once. This will ask you if you are sure. If you decide not to delete the patch, simply press page back until the tune play button turns green again. When you are ready, press right copy once. This will ask you if you wish to turn the memory protect off. Press enter. This will turn off the memory protect and delete the patch at the same time. The patch above the patch you have deleted has now moved down one place to location 3. When you have finished the deleting process, press page back again and you will see the tune play light turn green. This has now taken you out of edit mode. The deleting procedure has now been completed. Patch Edit has 3 buttons. Internal, which allows you to adjust how the performance of the patch is played through the guitar. External, which allows you to adjust parameters when the guitar is playing an external synthesizer MIDI'd up through the GR50. And Common, this allows you to rename the patch, select a reverb for the patch and select the velocity curve of how the guitar strings are picked and how this affects the sound of the patch when played. Pressing the internal button on the patch edit accesses the programming of the parameters of how the patch will play the sounds through the guitar. On the bottom row here shows you the sound you have programmed into the patch. This can be changed using the value up and down buttons and programmed into the patch. The patch is made of 2 layers. On the top row you will see ST stands for strings, A stands for all of the strings to be edited at once. First means you are in the first layer of the 2 layers of the patch. This shows you the patch you are editing. Pressing part or string will allow you to scroll up or down between the string selections. These can be edited and assigned different instruments to each string. This is useful if you wish to split the strings up into groups for instruments to play within the patch. To change from the first layer to the second layer, use the group button. This will take you to the second layer where you can edit the sound the same as layer 1. If you have assigned a number of sounds to layer 1, then the second layer will be limited to what sounds you can assign to each string here. If you press group again, this will take you to the mode section. Here, mode, this is the first layer and will be played on its own singularly. Pressing the value up button, you can access the second layer for playing on its own. Pressing value again will take you to be able to play both layers together within the patch. Pressing value again will allow you to switch between one layer and another depending upon the pick strength and the guitar sense that has been set. Here you'll see a number of ways in which you can select how to play the sounds within the patch. Pressing the bank button will scroll you to the mode sensor. Number 1 will introduce one sound first. Using the value up button will allow you to introduce other sounds depending upon the pick strength of your playing, until the other layer has overshadowed the first layer. Pressing group again. Here, while you are in instrument display mode, if you press bank, you can then edit the output level, panning, key shift as to up or down the octaves, and fine tuning. You can switch the chromatic switch on or off. This is useful if you are playing a stringed sound and you wish to have a glide sound. If you switch the chromatic switch on, it will give you more of a stepped sound between the semitones of the scale. Here you can switch the reverb on or off for the sounds within the patch. If you press page back, this will return you to the performance display screen. Pressing the Patch Edit External button allows you to access the parameters which control an external synthesizer which has been MIDI'd up to the GR50. The program number refers to the patch within the external synthesizer and is programmed to relate to the internal patch of the GR50. When the GR50's patch is called, the associated external synthesizer program patch will be recalled at the same time. The strings are set to all and will play the external synthesizer with all the strings. Branch A is the MIDI channel which the patch will be programmed for. Pressing part or string will scroll between branch A and branch B. Here you'll see branch B has a different program number to branch A. Using group or parameter A will allow you to scroll up or down through the string selection. Once you get to number 6, it will then change to the MIDI channel. Here you'll see the MIDI channel is switched off. You cannot share the same MIDI channel as branch A and must have a different MIDI channel. Otherwise a conflict will happen between the two. Channel overlap will be the message. If you scroll backwards, you can then use MIDI channel 2 or switch it off if you are not using that particular branch. Pressing group again will return you to the string selection for editing. Pressing bank or parameter B buttons will allow you to scroll to transpose the external synthesizer up or down within the octaves. Select whether you wish to have the strings on or off in that branch. and this will return you to the program patch number of the external synthesizer. Switching the strings on or off will allow you to select which strings you wish to play the external synthesizer with, whether it is number 1 to number 6 or all of them. When you are selecting the MIDI channel, use the bank button to select whether you wish to play in poly mode or in mono mode, using the value up and down buttons. It is recommended when using mono mode not to use them on both channels, but to have one in poly mode. Here, the strings will be assigned separate MIDI channels. For example, string 1 will become MIDI channel 1, and each MIDI channel up to 6 will be assigned to the rest of the strings of the guitar. Branch B will then have to be assigned above the last MIDI channel of the 6th string, or if the branch A channel has been assigned the 7th MIDI channel, then branch B can be assigned the 1st MIDI channel up to number 6. Pressing bank again will allow you to control the output level of the synthesizer. You can set the bender range here. It is recommended to set the same bender range for the external synthesizer as the guitar string bending is capable of, or if you have a tremolo arm and you are using this instead for the pitch bend range of the external synthesizer. To come out of the MIDI channel, simply press Group or Parameter A. This will return you to the program number, or it will scroll you back down through the string selection until you get to the program number. When you have finished, press Page Back, and this will take you back to the performance screen. Pressing the column button accesses the patch naming, reverb type selection, and selecting the velocity curve for your guitar. Here on the patch name, if you use the bank and parameter B buttons, this allows you to scroll backwards and forwards across the patch name. Using the value up and down buttons allows you to change the letter for the patch name. Pressing the group button will allow you to change the reverb type. Pressing the button again will allow you to select the timing and the reverb level. Pressing the button again allows you to select the velocity curve on how hard or soft when you are picking your strings to how this will affect the synthesizer. Here on the velocity curve you can select from number 1 to number 4 using the value up and down buttons. Number 1 will have marginal effect on how the sound is played when picked with the string. If you select from number 2, 3 and 4, this will have more of an effect of how the sound is played when you pick the strings. Pressing the button again will take you back to patch naming. When you have finished editing the patch, if your string settings are for all, If you press right copy twice, this will copy the settings to all of the strings. If you have your strings settings, for example number 4 string, and you have edited this string, if you press right copy twice, this will then copy the settings from the 4th string to the 6th string. When you are sure, press enter and this will copy all of the edited sections into the patch. If you are not sure you wish to keep the edits, simply press either one of the settings on the internal, external or common, and this will return you to that page. If you are satisfied with the patch edits and have saved these into the patch, you can then overwrite the patch into the patch location you have edited using the right copy button. Press this once. It will ask you if you wish to write the patch into that location. You can save the patch into another location using the value up and down buttons. When you are ready, press enter. This will ask you if you are sure. Press right copy once. Here, this will ask you if you wish to turn the memory off or not. This will be done automatically if you press enter, and will then save the patch edits and the patch and rewrite the patch into the patch location you have edited, or have saved the patch to another location. If at any time you do not wish to save the patch, simply press page back. This will take you back to the previous page. To come out of the edit section, press play tune, and this will return you to the performance screen mode and out of the patch edit section. To reset the GR50 synthesizer back to its original settings, press the value up, external and right copy buttons at the same time while switching the power on. This will wipe clean the patch chain settings in the patch chains, leaving the original pre-programmed synthesizer sounds in the synthesizer. Once you reinitialize the GR50 unit, like this, initialize internal memory will appear on the display screen. Once you release the 3 buttons, you'll see sample patch 1. These are the original sounds that are programmed into the synthesizer without the added effects, etc. To reprogram the original patches back into the patch chains, you'll need the GR50's sysx files, a MIDI player, and connect the MIDI outports to the MIDI import of the GR50. Load the sysx files into the MIDI player. You'll see the GR50 sysx file and the sysx data. When you are ready, press the system button once. Here you'll see memory protect on. Use the value up or down buttons to switch this off. This will allow you to load the sysx files into the GR50 and reset the patches. Use the bank button to scroll up. Switch your MIDI channel to number 1 using the value up button. Press bank again. Here you'll see the exclusive unit number. If it does not read number 17, use the value up or down buttons to scroll up or down until you find number 17. When you are ready, start the MIDI file player. This will load the sysx files into the GR50. When the file has completed playing, press page back. You will see sample patch. If you press page up and page down, you will then see the original patches have been reinstalled into the GR50. Here the procedure has finished.